It's almost on your feet day, and standing in general practice, particularly as a clinician, is something that you may want to try. So let's show you how. Let's tech enhance your primary care and learning. If this is the first time we're meeting, I'm Dr. Gandalf of eGP Learning, where I look at supporting you with technology-enhanced primary care. And in this video, we're going to have a look at using standing desks in clinical practice. Shall we begin? Hi GP learners. I've been using a standing desk in clinical practice for 2 years now, and what I wanted to show you was a simple video that shows you how you can use these potentially yourself, all in preparation for On Your Feet Day here in Britain. In terms of using them, there are 3 different types of desks you need to consider. So number 1 is a standard standing desk itself, where the whole unit goes up and down, up and down. Really useful, really effective, and not too expensive. Can be if you want it to be, if you want all the bells and whistles and that kind of stuff. But generally you can get them from anywhere between £400 to about £500. Things like the Flighter, for example, really good brand. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. The next option to consider is a desk riser. So that's what you can see here. So these are simple units that sit on a stationary desk that go up and down, up and down. Shall we have a look? So simply to use it, you clip the sides and push down. And there we go. And if you want to lift it up, again, clip the sides and lift up. After using it for a while, you get used to particular heights that work for you. And as you can see, very stable, very sturdy. This particular one, the Yo-Yo Desk 90, really robust kind of unit. I personally have enjoyed using it for the past 2 years and it's never let me down. Number 3 are stationary risers. So effectively boxes, that kind of stuff that you may want to use. There are various different versions you can get. You can even get some really expensive ones as well. But effectively those are the 3 different types, and they come in a variety of ranges and costs. But what are the reasons for using a standing desk? Well, there are definite benefits and cons in terms of using standing desks. In terms of the benefits, it gets you active. This is a huge thing in primary care, because often many people just sit at a desk all day long. Why is that bad? Well, we know that that can increase your risks of obesity, diabetes and muscular conditions, in particular lower back and shoulder ache. And these are growing problems that we are seeing. So actually being active is a huge part of things. And the benefit of this is you move around in terms of the room. When you're talking with patients, it can actually improve the engagement. And we're going to have a look at that in a little bit. Me personally, I found it a huge benefit. I used to suffer quite a lot with upper shoulder problems and lower backache at the end of the day. I'd squirm around in my seat, I'd be sitting on my legs, that kind of stuff. And one of the things I found with using a standing desk, I do that a lot less. I generally have a better posture, less shoulder aches, that kind of stuff. And I have found it a real benefit to me. One of the cons? Well, it can cause you some leg ache initially when you start using them, particularly if you're not used to standing for longer periods of time. This does settle as time goes on, but it's something to consider and something that can be a little bit uncomfortable at the start. Clearly, standing all day is also not good. Here is a myth I'd like to debunk. Using a standing desk all the time is also not the best thing to be doing. Just like sitting down all day is not the best thing to be doing. It is the changing of things. So one of the things I tend to do is I will typically use the standing desk like this when I'm doing admin or when I'm doing consulting. Telephone consultation stuff I tend to sit down for, purely simply because reaching over and up and down to reach my telephone because of the size, a bit trickier to do. Yes, you heard me right, I consult standing up. So shall we have a look at that, because that's one of the key things that people always ask me about, is the engagement with patients. Surely that's not a great thing people say. They say it feels like I'm standing over them, it feels like I'm talking down to them, and that patients just won't engage with it. Well, as I said, I've been using standing desks for 2 years now. In that time I've only ever had one patient that I know of that's actively said they didn't want to see me because of the desk. Their choice, and I am more than happy to sit down if a patient wants me to, and I say that to them if they ask. But what kind of reactions do I get from them? Well, so you can see it better, I'm going to move this camera. So I'm going to go from there to there. And the reason why I've got it set up this way is so you can see that the view you're going to get, my eye level, looking at me as I would typically consult, because normally patients will sit either in this or this chair when they consult with me. Shall we have a look? So here we are, EGP learners. This is what a patient would typically see when they consult with me as I'm standing in clinical practice. Often the first question or comment I get from patients when they come in is, have they made you do that? Is this what they're making you do now? And a lot of patients seem surprised when I actually tell them that actually I'm doing this for myself, that I'm doing it for my own health and trying to practice what I preach about trying to keep as active as possible throughout my daily routine. And often then I tend to get a look of amazement or that concept that many even think, actually that's really sensible, really useful kind of thing to do. Some patients do stay standing and consult with me standing. Majority, I must admit, do tend to sit down, and if they ask me to sit down, of course I will do. Personally, I don't think it's ever had an impact on engagement, and when there have been those kind of consultations where you do need to be more empathic, more engaging, I have sat down. So then I go from there to here. So slight difference, kind of helps I'm not that tall, I think, so therefore it's not a significant difference in things. Obviously the other group that it can have an interesting aspect with is children. So they will typically be much lower, and often when I'm examining them, I'll squat down to either examine them or sometimes even get them to stand up. It makes for a good and effective examination, I tend to find. And yeah, standing does really help with the examination aspects, particularly upper body areas like shoulders, necks, that kind of stuff. The fact that I'm able to move around quickly and effectively means actually I do find I consult a little bit quicker. In terms of typing, great height for typing at. Making sure you've got good eye level and stuff, so normally my screen's a little bit higher, I haven't raised it as much as I normally would do, but effectively it allows me to consult quickly, effectively, and like I said, I've always got the information. And the other thing I've tend to find when I do stand and when the patients stand with me, sharing the screen is really natural. It works really well and effectively. I also obviously have my tablet that I normally have, taking it down at the moment because it's screen charged, but effectively it works really well. Patients can tap onto it, engage quickly, effectively. What do you guys think? And we're back. So guys, what did you think of that? One thing I would really enjoy is if you could leave me a comment to tell me what you think about, is consulting using a standing desk a positive or a negative thing from the view that you've just had. Other things to consider when using a standing desk. Well, there are a few things you need to be aware of. So number one is the wires, okay? Because of the fact the desks go up and down, you need to make sure you've got enough slack in all the various different wires with the systems that you've got. As you can see, I've got a variety of kit here. I've got a printer, I've got actually 3 printers, so label, and a normal printer for our prescriptions and paper, as well as I've got the phone units, got the cabling going up to the monitors, headphones, USB sockets, all these kind of things, and you need to make sure you've got enough slack in those wires to make sure that everything goes up and down smoothly without causing any problems. Other things to be aware of is where your desk sits, if it's going up and down, and also making sure you've got access to various things. As you can see, I've got a few things like numbers on the board and that kind of stuff behind me, making sure you can still access the relevant ones that you will always need, but also you're not scraping against the wall when you go up and down with your desk and stuff, and also side to side, monitors, other units, that kind of stuff. Another thing to consider is the surface area that a desk will take up, particularly if you're using risers or boxed units and stuff. So as you can see, mine has 2 different levels, one for the keyboard and one for the surface area of the desk. I particularly wanted this because I prefer having my keyboard at a set height, and also for when I'm using this in other situations it makes it easier. The downside to this is I clearly have a lower surface workable area, and that sometimes can be an inhibition for people. Clear benefit would be having an actual proper standing desk that goes up and down, so therefore I have a greater surface area to use. But the reason I have this is the other consideration, which is hot desking. You may work in a practice where actually you don't have your own dedicated room that only you get to use. I mean, how many of us work full time all the time nowadays anyway? So therefore the concept of hot desking is something you need to be aware of and also factor in when you're using standing desks. So for me, this is the reason I have a riser desk like this, so that other people can still use my room. Simply I just take the desk down. If they want to use the chair, they can do. So EGP learners, I hope you've enjoyed that video. If you've got any specific questions, feel free to contact me at drgandalf52 or at EGP Learning. Make sure you leave a comment below, really would appreciate it, particularly my question about whether or not you thought that engagement aspect works really well with this. Make sure you ring the bell to subscribe to this channel, love to have your followers, and as always, subscribe, comment, share. Let's tech enhance your primary care and learning. See you later, bye.